Welcome back. This is Will at Work. I'm Kevin. Today we're going to look at the Cybiko. Now, I don't really consider this a console. Some people do that collect game consoles. I don't think it is one. But I wanted to add it here as a curiosity item. I'm not going to actually number it as part of my console collection because I just have determined that this is just really not a console. What's interesting about this device is the fact that when it came out, it was probably doomed to fail because cell phones were getting better all the time. But the idea here was that kids could essentially chat and send messages back and forth with this device, as well as do a little bit of like organizing, almost like a PDA. But instead of using a cellular network, it used radio waves. So it used like RF, and I think, supposedly it had a range of around 150 feet or something. So you had to be, within like a Wi-Fi radius or something. So you had to be fairly close. Now, if you were in school or something and a bunch of people had these, then you could be sending messages back and forth to each other, and you could have some kind of an interesting, chatter. But I mean, the reality is that there weren't enough people that probably own these things for any kids to really get any of that going on. It was such a niche item, and they did come out with a second model, if I recall, but it still, it was more refined than this one, but it still didn't do it. And then eventually this just tanked and you didn't get any more investment money. But these days, this kind of a device that would be more polished, I think, would be a lot more useful, especially in places where there's a lot of government lockdowns and things like, in Hong Kong when they were rioting, or in Burma/Myanmar, where they're rioting, and and a lot of times the government will shut down cell phone towers or social networks or whatever, and communication can be difficult. And there are actually some apps out there that utilize Bluetooth in order to sort of pass messages around, so that, like, you can create kind of like a mesh network of people. But Bluetooth doesn't have the same ability, you know what I mean, to sort of like broadcast to a whole bunch of different Bluetooth receivers and then have them pay. I mean, there's a lot of handshaking that kind of has to go on with that. And I think maybe, with near field communications, but then you're limited to like distance, having to be fairly close. And I'm sure that the people working on this stuff are constantly making improvements and things like that. So it's an interesting idea, but this was kind of doing it, back in like 2000 or whatever. And, it has an antenna specifically designed to, you work on radio waves. And not only that, but you can actually take one of these and turn it into like a repeater. So like, you could extend the range. So, if somebody could set one up in like a building or whatever, and it could store messages or relay messages, etc. So if you had a whole bunch of them, you would be able to create kind of like a mesh network, and then have other people simply walking up, sending messages, etc. And this will, be retrying and all that sort of stuff. And there's a way that you can link it up to a PC and send email and things like that through a sort of a text-based email system. But again, it was a failure, but it was kind of interesting. If it would have been a little bit more hackable and styled a little bit better and so on, and maybe if it had like a better screen, it would have been a lot more. It might have had a little bit better pickup by people that are maybe hobbyists rather than kids, because it's just such an odd thing, when people are trying to play like Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance and things like that, they're going to end up with a Cybiko. It's just kind of a strange thing. So I have two. It only makes sense to have two, really. And let's see if this works. You can see here there's a set of buttons up here for choosing things on the menu, and you can see there's sort of kid made a dog and target and dice and alarm clock and such. You have a sort of a D-pad here. It's kind of a smushy, rubbery thing that it feels okay, but it's not great. It's probably designed to last quite a while for kids and that kind of thing. So let's see. There's also a stylus, which I think you would think the stylus is for the screen, but it's not a touch screen. They actually give you this stylus to tap here on the buttons, right? So I guess, again, it's sort of like, I don't know. They should have made the keyboard different, I suppose. That might have been the right thing to do. So let's see here. Do we get it to come on? It does work, I'm pretty sure. It's the batteries might not be legit anymore, but the unit itself is okay. I'm just trying to see if there's an actual power button. And look at that NIM, it's not even lithium. Not seeing it. It's not jumping out at me here. The battery life on this was really great when it was because this screen is just an LCD screen, and LCD screens they don't really draw that kind of power. Here we are. Oh no, that's PC in and out. I'm surprised there's not an on-off button on here. I can't. Do I just hold this in? No, let's try unplugging it. I mean, I could read the instructions, of course. It would probably help. There we go. Yeah, they used to give you every day one new application or game for free on the website. Yeah, the batteries. No batteries. Those NIM batteries are shot. We'll see if it keeps working just off the plug. So, you had some games, settings, applications, the community, email. This is the key thing I was talking about, is this wireless chat. And you and me. So let's see what each of these kind of look like really quick. Searches your network for a match by comparing everyone's personal About You data with your About Me data. The results of the search appear in the Psy community application. Yeah, so this is like some sort of dating thing or something. Copyright 2000. Well, we're not going to do that because there's no one to stand for here. Let's look at the chat app. Yeah, so there would be like, they were envisioning you would have all these rooms, and you could go into the romantic room and chat with people or something. But I mean, where, this thing has 150 feet range. Where are you going to be where there's all these people? It's so bizarre. Let's go back in there, though. I want to show let's just go into games. So you can say, hi, everybody, or you could type something in. And if I recall, well, that's fine. Hi, everybody. I thought there was like a way to rotate these. There was some different ones or something on here, but ultimately it's just a chat room, right? No big deal. It's just the thing that's neat about it, again, is not that it's on the internet. It's this crazy radio antenna that would give you this ability. It's pretty neat. I mean, it's a pretty neat idea. It just didn't, it didn't get where it wants. And I think, in Europe, I think it was Europe at the time, I think because, they don't have the same regulations as the United States, I think they could do it like up to 300 feet. So they could have like a 300 feet, which is a little bit better, but I mean, it's not incredible or anything. I mean, it's not like you're going to reach out to another Cybiko guy like four houses down or anything, because there probably wouldn't be one there. So there's email. Let's see the Cy community. Cy community is your way to find friends and check out all the people in your virtual wireless network. Presents the results of the search query created in You and Me section. So it's basically just like an extension of that. I don't know. Do I have anybody in my Cy community? Probably not. One time when I had this and it was still new, I was really curious if kids were even using it. So what I did was I set one of these up as a relay, right? And I lived near a very busy intersection, and I put it near the stoplight that I lived by, because I mean that's my house, like that's where my apartment was, and I just kind of set it there for like, I don't know, like maybe a week. I just left it on for a week, acting as a relay, and the idea is that somebody using this might, you know, be in the friends thing and just detect and send a message or something. Believe it or not, I got one message from a kid that thought it was his sister that he was communicating with. It was not. I did not message him because, I mean, it was just like it was a relay. So it was just sort of storing it, etc. But I was surprised that I got any kind of a message, because I didn't think anybody was buying this. But this is a week on a very busy intersection, because you would figure kids would be in the back of cars playing this thing. Workout planner, RF scanner. Let's see what that does. Radio frequency scanner allows you to see the connection's quality. What's that going to do for me? Connection to what? Nothing. Address and phone book, graphic editor, organizer, text editor and journal, uploader and file manager, LCD setup, and a calculator. And then we have games. So let's look. We got 8-ball, we got bingo, we got combat zone, we got dice, hangman, Cybiko superbike, Reversi/Othello, Tower of Hanoi, up and down, branch, and warfare. Let's look at how terrible Cybiko superbike is. Bam, bam, bam. And you would get a free app or game every day, and it was free. So the superbike, it wasn't like you were paying money for the superbike. You just bought Cybiko, and you would get this kind of junk for free on it. So you can't really complain too much about the fact that, for kind of like a communication device, the fact that they were giving you these apps and things, why not? But I'm sure that's also why they ran out of money, because, I think they were just trying to make their money on the Cybiko sales, imagining that if kids got it, they would sell like hundreds of these things. Yeah, there's no batteries, so it's gonna shit the bed. Oop. But yeah, so as you can see, it's not a console. It is it's a communication device of a time long past that wasn't successful, but it does play video games. I'm not gonna number it, but some places do. Yeah, there's like this. You can slide this out and add. I forget what the expansion was for. I can't remember if there was like supposed to be like a full-time internet or something like that. But I mean, you know how it is. I mean, you see this screen. This isn't going to bring up like Netscape or anything, back in those days. It's just not, it's going to be text-based browser and that sort of thing. And It was kind of an inexpensive device for them to make and sell, and but I just feel like they had something unique here, and they could have capitalized on it in a different way. I think, rather than trying to make it like a kid's organizer, if they would have like made this keyboard better, and maybe lost some of these controls, or made them a bit more so they didn't take up so much space. And yeah, I mean, maybe they could have had some sort of interesting communication device or something. Anyway, Cybiko, footnote in history. Thanks for watching. Now we'll move on to a actual game console.